In this video, I'm going to share with you everything you ever wanted to know about QR code marketing. I'm going to tell you what a QR code is, why QR codes are important to your business, and most importantly, how you can use QR codes to grow your business, no matter what kind of business you have, from retail and e-commerce, all the way through to using it in your advertising. So let me show you how it's done. Now, before we dive in, first off, a big thank you to QR Tiger for sponsoring this video and providing access to their research, data, statistics, and recommendations on the best ways to use QR codes to grow your business. I've got a link below this video for you to check them out, and I highly recommend you do after you watch through the video and see just how valuable a QR code marketing strategy could be for your business. Now, before we get into any of the specifics and nitty-gritty details of QR code marketing, we first need to make sure we're all reading off the same page, which means I've got to take just like 20 seconds or so to cover exactly what a QR code is anyway. So, what's a QR code? First, the technical definition. A QR code is an abbreviation of quick response code, and it's a type of barcode with a machine-readable optical label that contains information about the item that it's placed on. A QR code is usually made up of black squares arranged in a square grid on a white background, and it can then be read by an imaging device like your phone's camera. And the image can then be appropriately interpreted and the required data then extracted from the patterns that are present in both horizontal and vertical components of the QR code. Basically, it's a fancy and far more powerful barcode that you can scan with a camera to get a whole lot of valuable information quickly, easily, and also quite environmentally friendly. Thanks to these features, QR codes have been steadily growing in popularity. They're already very common and popular in countries in Asia and Europe, but we've also seen consistent growth in their usage in North America year after year as well. In North America, the most common placement for QR codes are on printed media like magazines and newspapers and product packaging. But they can also be seen on websites, posters, business cards, storefronts, and TVs. QR codes are most commonly used to provide more information, but they're also commonly seen giving event information, presenting special offers, and redirecting people to an app download. The important takeaway points here, though, are that QR codes are fast, they're easy, and they're an incredibly effective way to quickly deliver information to your clients and customers in a helpful, non-intrusive way. Okay, one more technical aspect we need to cover before I share some use cases with you, and that's the difference between dynamic QR codes and static QR codes. When it comes to QR codes, they're really not that technical, but there is one thing that's important to understand to really get the best results from your QR code marketing, and that's how to differentiate between static and dynamic QR codes. The main idea is that static QR codes embed permanent information. What this means is that after it's been created, whatever content is linked to it can no longer be changed. On the other hand, dynamic QR codes are much more versatile, because even after being printed, the content embedded on them can be updated however you want, anytime you want, and with anything you want. To make things better, real-time data tracking is also possible with dynamic QR codes, which allows information like when and where the scans were made, what kind of device was used to scan it, and a whole lot more. For example, let me hop into my QR Tiger account now and show you how simple it is to create a QR code that links back to my website. All right, so here I am inside my QR Tiger account. I'm going to show you just how easy it is to quickly create a QR code for my business. Now, all I've done here is I've literally dragged and dropped, copied and pasted my URL for my website. Here I have the choice of a static or a dynamic QR code. We are going to do static for this one, nice and simple, but of course we do have an option here for dynamic to do all kinds of future modifications and tracking and editing and all kinds of amazing features. But literally we hit that, we hit generate QR code, and we're pretty much done. Now, of course, we do have some cool options here. We can choose some of the different patterns that we want it to show. We can choose what we want the corners to look like. If we're really kind of going for that branded aspect that'll work with your brand and with how you want it to sort of fit aesthetically with wherever you're placing it, whether it's on a storefront or a package or on printed materials. You have the option here to add your logo. You can set colors however you like, simply drag and drop. We're going to talk later about the importance of contrast, but for now, let's go with a nice dark blue, kind of like we had there against a white background. Might make it a little darker for ease of viewing. We're going to leave white on the background. I think we're set there. I like that. And that is literally it. Now all we need to do is we need to download either the SVG file for print or the PNG if we want to keep it online. So we're going to put PNG, and just like that, it's downloaded and ready to use. Now, of course, we do have other options here. We can use other kinds of V cards. We can have QR codes for files if we want to give someone access to. We have QR codes we could send to different social media platforms. We have menus and H5s and multi-URLs and app stores. We could send Wi-Fi information. We can give people access to MP3s or Facebook pages or YouTube pages or Instagram or whatever it is that we want, or just straight up text if we want. Although your best plan is to send them somewhere where they're going to be able to get more of that interactive and engaged experience. This is the reason that I like a web page or a landing page that has been optimized for whatever it is that you're selling, making sure that it's mobile optimized, of course. Again, we're going to talk about that more in just a minute. But again, that's simple. We hit that, we go generate QR code, we make it look however we want it to look that matches with our brand and with our style and so on, and then we download and we're set. Okay, now let me cover a few different use cases, including using QR codes in packaging, retail stores, e-commerce, and advertising. Feel free to use the timestamps below the video to jump around or ahead to whatever area interests you most. We'll start with packaging. For starters, the first thing that people evaluate when making a purchase isn't the product, but the packaging itself. Second, when people come to looking for more information about a product, again, they look at the package. Lastly, product packaging is a free canvas. You literally have all the freedom on how you want to present your QR code, from size all the way to placement and design. The only question is, why wouldn't you? After all, QR codes only take up a small space, and packaging pretty much always has some kind of room. So there's no disadvantage to adding them to your products, only benefits. All right, next, let's talk about using QR codes in retail stores. QR codes are a game changer for retail stores as they drive more sales and traffic, and they provide a digital approach which helps compete against the growing e-commerce sector. However, implementing the technology in your store does take a little bit of planning. There's a lot of ways and applications depending on what you need or what you want. From the storefront to your hallways, any free space is a canvas for a QR code placement. But don't get too excited just yet. Remember that its purpose must correlate with its placement. In other words, you want to be strategic about where you're placing your QR codes and what you're trying to accomplish with each one. The rule of thumb is that storefronts are for marketing and interactive materials, hallways for specific information about services and products, and checkouts should only be for something that doesn't distract or take away from the purchase. So something like, see you soon, or you can also check us out online at this link here. Next up, let's talk about using QR codes in e-commerce. There is no better business to apply QR codes to than e-commerce, and fortunately doing this is about as straightforward as it can get. Basically, all you need to do here is put the code on the packaging and you're pretty much done. It then all boils down to how your QR code should function. And there are really only two ways to go here: information and services. For information, the QR code should lead customers to more information regarding the product, as it's common for people to have questions whenever they purchase something. And when they have the option to simply get more information with a scan of their phone, well, you take away all the time that they would have to spend searching online and all on their own. It's this kind of customer service that leads to customer loyalty. For services, on the other hand, you want to take the opportunity to market the rest of your products and services from your company. People are far more likely to come back to companies that they have a positive experience with, and this makes it easy for them to know what else you have to offer, and it's pretty much a guaranteed way to secure your market position. Okay, now let's talk QR codes in advertising. While the purpose of QR codes are mainly for advertising, it doesn't intend to replace printed mediums, but instead further enhances their effectiveness and function. By adding a QR code to your static medium, you're giving a digital and interactive aspect to it, making the printed material that much more effective. The big thing with using QR codes in your advertising, though, is to try not to make your audience read too much. Remember, you added a digital aspect to your printed media, which opens up way more possibilities with your ad. If you're gonna send them to something like a lengthy article, then you're really not making the best use of the platform, especially when you have the option to direct them to something more interactive, like a video or a game. Remember, the keyword here is interactive. If it doesn't spark immediate interest, then you're doing it wrong. Okay, now let me walk you through a 3-step QR code marketing campaign strategy. The first part of every successful QR code campaign is strategic placement. If you don't know where to put them, you aren't going to be able to make the most informed decisions for what comes next. This is why step 1 is to always try to identify the best, most logical, and most relevant and useful placements for your QR codes. Next, once you have the location of your QR code decided, you're going to be better able to determine what kind of functionality is going to suit it best. For example, if you decided to place it on your storefront, then you would use this for marketing and promotions. On your products, well, for further information and services. It's crucial for placement to coincide with purpose. That is, if you want to keep your audience interested, engaged, and taking action. And speaking of action, let's talk about point 3. The final step is to add a call to action, or CTA, to spark interest and to get someone to, well, take action. The key here is to keep your CTAs clean and crystal clear. Just say what you want them to do. For example, you could try scan to learn more, watch video, or scan to win. But don't be afraid to test different combinations and see what works best for you. Your CTA may be the most important part of your entire QR code marketing campaign, so make sure not to overlook it. After all, if they don't scan, you don't sell. And the statistics show that if you add a call to action in your artwork, you'll get up to 60% more scans. All right, now let's talk about a few of the most common QR code marketing mistakes that you want to avoid at all costs. The first mistake is sending people to non-mobile friendly destinations. The target market of QR codes are clearly mobile users, unless you can imagine people scanning with their desktops or laptop computers. It's a funny thought, but it's not how it works. So with that in mind, make sure the content you're trying to deliver is mobile friendly or specifically catered and centered to be viewed on mobile devices. The common mistake of most business owners is linking to their full website that doesn't scale down to a phone screen size and aspect ratio or is too large to be run by mobile platforms. Remember, when things get too hard and a little too challenging, your customers won't even bother. The next mistake is having long, confusing, or repetitive calls to action. You want to try to keep your call to action as short as possible. Even a sentence is probably too long. Moreover, it shouldn't be a reiteration of the entire purpose of the QR code. If you're simply going to explain what's going to happen after scanning the image, then you're kind of killing the curiosity aspect and it makes it far less likely that someone's going to scan. The next mistake is, well, just being boring or not really providing that much additional value. The rule here is to make your audience's effort of scanning your QR code worth it. Let the experience be rewarding and don't just settle with bland content that isn't really going to help them. Next, it's important to remember that QR codes scan best on a white background with a darker color pattern. So think of a black or dark blue pattern against a white background. This makes it easy to see and easy to scan. A yellow or faded color pattern on a white background, on the other hand, is hard to see and hard to scan. So make sure to avoid that. So now that I've had the chance to cover the basics of QR code marketing with you, the next thing to do is make sure to check out QR Tiger by clicking the link in the description below this video. And for more marketing strategies for your business, the next thing you're going to want to do is check out the video I have linked up right here on how to advertise for a small business. So make sure to check that out now, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, so let's say you've got all of that dialed in. Well, the next piece of the puzzle is what exactly are you going to say? What's going to go into your ad? And this part is just as important as who you're trying to